Everyone who's played Create has had that moment where they realized blaze cakes and zinc were non-renewable. But what if I told you a Create add-on that's all about crushing your nuts fixes that? That's right, in the latest version of Create Garnish, not only can you infinitely superheat your blaze burners, but you can still get amazing beacon potion effects from magical nuts. So to get started with Garnish, you're going to need to find one of these nut trees, which looks like a regular oak tree, but it has these nut leaves inside of it. They spawn in the plains biome pretty frequently, and if you were to cut down the tree, you'll see it drops a random amount of nuts. It can drop any of the 8 nuts that are in this pack. Once you've chopped down enough of the trees and you find yourself with all 8 nuts, you are good to go. Once you just have one of the nuts, you can replicate them forever and ever and ever, and you are the nut master. Now, you can't just plant nuts into the ground, so the way that you are meant to duplicate these guys is, of course, by crushing your nuts. Throw yourself a nut into a millstone or a crushing wheels, and you will get a cracked version of the nut, which you can then place into the ground. This used to be something you would grow on farmland, but now you grow a proper nut tree. Now, you see, these nut leaves look a little bit different than the ones we were looking at before, and that is because this is a cashew tree specifically. I used a cracked cashew, so I got a cashew tree. And if I were to chop this down, you will see that we get only cashews and a special item called the cashew apple, which we'll get into later. And by the way, I just think it's so cool that you have to have like a tree farm and a crushing setup to work together for this mod. It's really engaging. Once you have your infinite nuts, the next step to nut mastery is garnishing your nuts. And to do that, we need to make liquid garnish, which is going to require sugar, any seeds, wheat or pumpkin, and some water, as well as a heated blaze burner. This will give you liquid garnish, and it is the basis of pretty much this whole pack. Once you get that garnish inside of a spout, you can place any ungarnished nut onto a depot or belt line or whatever beneath it, and you will get yourself garnished pecans or hazelnuts or whatever you desire. Not only does this increase the hunger value pretty much infinitely since it stops it from being poisonous, but garnished nuts can be easily stored in nut sacks for decoration purposes as well. Aren't they just cute? The next step to magical nuts is taking some cinder flour and deploying it on top of your garnished nuts to create cinder flowered nuts. This actually has no effect on the nut. It doesn't change anything, but it is needed for the magic step. Now, for all the nuts, there are 2 types of melted cinder flowers. There's the non-magical melted cinder flower and the magical melted cinder flower. To get non-magical melted cinder flower, you just need to add netherwort and a heated blaze burner in a mixer, and it'll just increase the hunger values. But for the magical kind is where we need to invest some resources. You'll need a nugget of any kind. You'll need yourself 100 millibuckets of lava. You'll need yourself a cinder flowered nut, a netherwort, and either powdered garnish or salt compound. Now, to get salt compound, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. Well, this is what the salt processing line looks like. First of all, you're going to be getting limestone from honey and lava, just like a cobblestone generator, and then crushing that down into crushed salt, zinc ingots, and iron ingots. That's right, Create Garnish makes it so that you can get zinc renewably and very fast, I might add, and then run it through this very loud processing line of 2 mechanical presses and a deployer with flint running through it, and then you will get yourself the salt compound. To get garnish powder, you need to start with a block of garnish. That's a bucket of liquid garnish, a salt compound, and 2 wheat inside of a press. You'll then get yourself a solidified garnish block, which is super important to the mod. Crush that in crushing wheels, and crushing wheels only, to get yourself a decent amount of garnish compound, right? It's anywhere from 4 to 6. Now, one of those garnish compounds is needed to be crushed into a garnish powder with, I believe, a chance for 1 more. But don't crush all of them because you can reprocess them into infinite blocks of garnish. In a different press with water, 2 pieces of sugar, salt compound, and a single garnish compound, you create a solidified garnish block. So not only do you have the ability to create your magic nuts now, but you have infinite garnish because that garnish compound is used to garnish nuts. It can be used to garnish any type of nut instead of the fluid, and it's also used in a bunch of different other recipes for foodstuffs. More on those later. So now get yourself a press a cinder flower nut, a piece of lava, about 100 millibuckets, a nether wart, a gold nugget, and a salt compound, and there you go. You have yourself a proper available effect, and these don't mess around. This gives you speed for 1.5 minutes for just one of these. If you want to bulk craft them, you are going to want to put a filter on the basin, because of course, if I were to take a bunch of any type of nugget, gold nuggets included, and throw it in here, even with the lava, it would try to create gold ingots, right? But with the filter, your gold nuggets are safe. And the effects here are amazing. You've got speed, strength, haste, resistance, night vision, fire resistance. The hazelnut is really cool because it gives you speed 2. Yeah, speed 2 for 1.5 minutes just for hazelnuts. And with the peanut, you get a really interesting effect, invisibility and slowness, so you could be a sneaky little rogue. So those are your magic nuts, but as you can see, there's a ton more. And I know you guys are interested in infinitely renewable superheated blaze burners. So to get that fabled infinitely renewable blaze burner fuel, you need water, 2 powdered garnish, and 2 ungarnished peanuts, and that will mix together into 250 millibuckets of peanut oil. This absolutely magical substance is what does all the magic. It essentially acts as a blaze cake, giving 160 seconds of superheated blaze burner. Now, what I really love about this recipe is you can actually feed peanuts and any other nut. In fact, every type of nut of every amount, even crack nuts, can be fed to blaze burners to increase their burn time. So all you actually need for peanut oil, the only nut you need, is peanuts. You just filter some peanuts into the blaze burner, filter some peanuts into being cracked, and before you call it unbalanced, remember, this requires the powdered garnish. That means you need crushing wheels, and you need this assembly line. So there is quite a bit of setup that goes into this. And blaze cakes are literally eggs, sugar, and netherrack, so they're pretty cheap. Unfortunately, though, you can't make an infinite source of this. Although this is big enough to be considered an infinite source, as you can see, it goes way down deep. You can also see how this is consuming the sources of it. It might have to do with tagging. I don't know if this is a bug, but you will have to automate it without just making 10,000 buckets of it first. But 10,000 buckets of peanut oil could burn for 18.5 straight days? So I don't think you need this. Now, being that this mod adds a ton of food items, you can see it adds a ton of food items. You can use sugar or chocolate or honey to increase the hunger and saturation value of every type of nut, and there are different nut mixes that can be configured in different ways to have huge amounts of food. And then, of course, the garnished meal, this massive thing. There are even assembly line foods, but I'm going to be honest, I think I'm going to let you guys discover these through JEI. What I want to talk to you about are the really interesting things, which are the apple ciders and the cashew apples. Now, cashew apples are pretty fun. They come from the cashew trees, and they have a 1 in 4 chance to poison you. So you kind of don't want to eat these, but it might be something funny to have as, like, you know, I don't know, a create challenge that you can only eat the cashew apples, because every few times, wow, we're getting very lucky. Can you not get poisoned in creative mode? All right, well, take my word for it. There's a 1 out of 4 chance. But the apple ciders are really cool. There are 3 apple ciders, and then there is bottled peanut oil. Bottled regular apple cider just cleanses the user of withering. And this is super good because milk, okay? If I were to take milk, right, and I had, you know, I had some strength buffs on me, right? And many of you guys know this. Even if you have a positive buff, drinking milk removes the positive buff. However, drinking bottled apple cider only touches withering. It's exclusive to withering, and as you can see, apple cider is not too bad. Garnish compound, apples, any cracked nut, some water, and a heated blaze burner. It's very powerful. There is also cryptic bottled apple cider, where you add any flour to the bottled apple cider for a 50-50 chance for strength 3 or slowness 3. Now that one's pretty good. Boom, yeah, look at that, strength 3 there. But you could also get hit with a pretty nasty slowness effect. Although, if you combine that with the hazelnut's double speed effect, For strength 3, this is pretty worthwhile. Now, bitter apple cider also cleanses the user of withering, but also gives you the really cool effect. By the way, it's made with a cashew apple. This is going to give you slowness and resistance. So it's slowness 2 and resistance 3. So you kind of become a tank, and once again, you just get yourself a little bit of hazelnut, and you're moving normally. It's pretty nice. Now, the peanut oil is great. This one cleanses you of poison, which I don't have on me, but like you can see, it doesn't cleanse any positive or negative effects except for poison. I wish I could get, there we go. Clears the user of poison, and we know how to make peanut oil. There is yet more. Don't leave the video, because if you think automating zinc and iron is good, oh, you have no idea. Each one of these liquids produces a unique block. So not only can you infinitely power your blaze burners, but you can generate a number of different resources in this mod. It is absolutely insane. Combining garnish with lava gets you calcite. Combining peanut oil with lava instead will net you some dripstone blocks. And finally, apple cider with lava will give you some ochrum, which actually allows you to automate gold, I believe? Yeah, at a pretty good rate. Dripstone, of course, can be crushed into clay very reliably, and calcite can be crushed into bone meal, which is fun. Or even packed into diorite, which can then be made into all things diorite can be made into. And so there truly is the magical nut mod that will allow you to power your blaze burners forever, so go forth and feed your blaze burners some nuts. A link in the description of the mod pack, of course. I just want to use this time to say thank you so much to the members of this channel. They are helping this channel and me become closer and closer to becoming a full-time content creator. So if that's something you'd be interested in, subscribe and become a member.